There is, if you're watching this, you can see on your screen the post-split league fixtures. So 3-1 win over Falkirk, 2-1 over Hibs, and then Rangers this Sunday, 12 o'clock. Do you know, I don't know what you guys think. I think the Rangers and Hearts games at Celtic Park will kind of take care of themselves, if that makes sense. You know, the atmosphere will be bouncing, and, you know, as we said, the fans are all unified now. That Motherwell game away is the one that kind of jumps out to me as a big stumbling block.
What? Yeah. I think I was right, but I get it, right, because Motherwell's performance at Ibrox last week was so good, right? But that was their first win since February. I mean, they've lost 1, 2, 3, 5 at the last 7 and 1 draw in there at home to Hibs, and the one win was at Ibrox. So, yeah, at any other time, just looking at the raw stats, you'd be thinking, why would anyone be terrified of a team that's won 1 game since Valentine's Day? Do you know what I mean? So, the Motherwell thing, I'm not saying Motherwell are a myth, right? That's not my headline. Like that for Motherwell's a myth. I don't think they're a myth. They're a good side. The manager's got the absolute best out of his squad. They play great football when they're playing well. I watched them against Falkirk weekend. They weren't great. So I get the kind of, because what they did to Celtic around at Christmas time, they gave Celtic an absolute doing at Fir Park. But that was a different time. That was the kind of the dark days of Wilfred Nonce's rather strange selection formation issues, and Motherwell picked that apart. So I don't think it's the same Celtic team as it was back then. You also don't know what Motherwell, what the state of play will be in terms of the European qualifications at that point either. But I don't think Celtic should be having sleepless nights about Fir Park. I think they need to. It's all about this game against Rangers on next Sunday. This is the one that's going to be, because the Celtic need to win. I think they need to win the 3 games. I don't think they can muck about. They might, if Hearts and Rangers draw tonight, they maybe could draw it and then wait and see what happens. I think so. It could, depends on the results here, but Celtic should be thinking go and win the game next week against Rangers.
Do you fancy them to win that game, Graeme?
I can see why it kind of sticks out, but Mick does make a compelling argument that maybe Celtic's greatest strength heading into this is that the Laura Motherwell's greater than the team they're going to play on the night, in the sense that if you believe that you're going to be playing this, and I know Mick, I get exactly what he's meaning, because he's not talking Motherwell down, but you have to get to a point where a team's, if they're not winning games, you can't elevate them to a status that they're not performing to. But everyone's seen, I think, why people rate Motherwell so highly is they look like a team that's come over in Champions League qualifying, and you go, this team, and this is how they look the real deal. Motherwell don't play like this. There's not been many Scottish teams that dominate the ball, and when they move and everyone's aligned and they score these great team goals. So I can see the fear, but maybe that does help Celtic, and they also will, by the time they get to Fir Park, Hearts will already have been there on the Saturday night. So that result might have already given Motherwell 4th. Might have tied that up, and it also might just be one. Who knows? They might have played the game of their life against Hearts, and maybe they don't have the same game in them against them. So there's so many variables with that. But I get what you're saying with how the two against title rivals, Rangers and Hearts at Celtic Park, this takes care of itself. But for Celtic as well, I don't think they need any extra motivation. But it's been a while since they beat Rangers in regulation, hasn't it? It's been a 90-minute win. I think you go back to, what was that, August 24. So it's nearly coming up for 2 years. So that
the last time,
the one Kyogo, Maeda and Cal McGregor scored that 3-0.
Engels debut.
Engels debut, that's it. So listen, that's a wee bit excuse as well. They're able to win cup finals, and I get a couple of draws at Ibrox and so forth. But I think just that kind of definitive kind of perform. But again, we know that Celtic team, I don't think they've got that kind of masterclass performance in them. It will probably be how they've managed to win the last few games as well. But I can see why Fir Park kind of looms large, but it may well be that might be the easiest of the games. You just don't know how it's going to play out. I think that's all these matches look brilliant on paper, or treacherous on paper at least anyway.
Very last thing, guys. Rangers is the next game. How are they going to get on? What's your predictions?
See, I think I genuinely, I've been saying this for a few days. I think it's impossible to predict, because I think it depends so much on what happens at Tynecastle. I just think the way Rangers play, I wouldn't be surprised if Rangers went to the way my scenario in my head is that if Rangers win at Tynecastle, I think Celtic will beat them at Parkhead on Sunday. I think that they're going into that game with so much at stake. I think Celtic win that game. If Rangers lose at Tynecastle and pretty much are out the title race, I think they've got a bit of a free hit at Celtic on a Sunday. I think they go and win the game Sunday. So I think Celtic fans should be hoping that Rangers beat Hearts, and then I think that's how it's all in terms of the link now. If Rangers lose to Hearts, they beat Celtic. If they beat Hearts, they lose to Celtic. That's how is that right? Aye. So that's how I think it'll unfold. So that's my caveat. Because if you're listening to it after the game, then you can spin it either way. You can cut it either way. Yeah.
Would you think, Graeme?
I think Celtic win the game. I've got to this. It's almost, there's this feeling that there's that level of ease with the team where it's like, oh, it's not a classic Celtic team and all this. But I just think the signs over the last few weeks, muscle memory, the way that there's certain players that have been here and done it, and I think that feeling of controlling the game, that's a weakness, I think, at Rangers in the sense. Even the game, that 3-1, the Nancy's last dance, so to speak. Celtic, there was loads of chances, and
in the first half,
I still don't think the balance is right in Rangers. They don't sometimes press correctly, and they fall in these 2-goal holes. If Celtic were able to do that, that would probably be the eureka moment where if they could just score 2 goals back to back, they might be able to control a game after all this time it comes against Rangers. But I just think everything that goes into it, Mark Neal has probably been counting down the days for this one. This just feels like the kind of moment to strike. And Celtic are in that mindset already. Rangers are, maybe 30 years behind them by the time whatever happens at Tynecastle. I just think that game's set up for Celtic more than Rangers. And I think they'll take advantage of it. And it might not be right.
What's the game plan, Young? Because Celtic game plan, I mean, they can't play the same way they play the Ibrox in the back-to-back games in the League and Cup. But what do they do in terms of their setup and approach to make it different? Because when they try to play Rangers at their own game, the kind of long ball stuff, and they get battered. And they get out of the cup tie having barely the shot and goal, which was it was a resilient defensive performance, but they can't rely on that. The two goals down in the league game, and it was 2 going on 5 or 6, and they managed to kind of come back. But that second half performance, I think, was in part Rangers retreating into a defensive shell and Celtic throwing caution to the wind, so they can't play that way either. So I just wonder what the game plan is going to be. I think Rangers in the full-back areas, especially if Roman's injured, you think that left side, I mean, see Motherwell really exploiting that left side of the defence. But then Dyson Maida has a lot of joy on the other side, up against if James Tavernier comes in there, do you play him wide? But I guess you've got to play him through the middle. So then where's your wide? The wide men are going to have to step up and get at the Rangers full-backs. Then you look at the Rangers the way they play, will they change it? They've got this 4-2-2-2. You think, do you throw an extra body in the middle of the park and try and win that area? Like they did, I mean, the first half under Wilfred Nancy at Celtic, first half against Rangers at New Year, was Celtic completely dominated the middle of the park and should have been out of sight by half time.
Yeah.
Then Rangers made a tactical tweak, and then Celtic's shape just fell to bits in the second half. So I don't know. That's what intrigues me, because Celtic haven't really found a way to play against Rangers for a long time. I mean, in the cup, even get back, like say last season, they struggled a wee bit against them. So Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney and the guys are going to have to figure out a new game plan to combat Rangers. I mean, they should really be looking at the Motherwell game plan, but have they got the players that can do that in this stage? I think they do. So I think you can bash at something like that, which is almost like a false front line.
Yep.
Dyson Maida has a bit of that anyway, but you don't really want Dyson Maida coming deep, because let's be honest, his best work's done facing the goal.
Yeah.
So in my head as well, Mick, I was probably thinking the name the bench yesterday, like Callum Osmond. It'll definitely come too early now. The fact that
it's not
exactly just nowhere near it yet.
He played 45 minutes for the other day, didn't he? But
it's not the fact. It's the fact that
he's played less than an hour of top team football for Celtic. I mean, if they can stick him on a bench, then fair enough. But it's very much a kind of. I mean, 3 substitute appearances, and they scored a good goal against Rangers and looked lively for a few minutes in Denmark before he got injured.
Yep.
But there's no real evidence to suggest that that's the kind of guy you can rely on. It might be a Hail Mary at the last 10 minutes if he's kicking about, but I don't see him being a viable option at any point in time.
No, I agree with that as well. I just more you was probably hoping that maybe in the last couple of weeks, I know he's been back in training, like just a couple of bench appear. I just think it's that there is a glaring weakness in the sense that it probably becomes Forrest, Yang, and Maeda. Then you just revert back. Forrest then needs to come back to the starting lineup. I don't think Taneki can start after the last two.
No.
So you need to commit to Forrest on the right, Yang back to the left. He gives you a kind of.
But then Forrest wasn't great when he started last week either. I mean,
I don't think there's an alternative. That's the thing that Celtic are